She crafted the perfect exit plan, except she never expected me to leave. No begging, no chaos, just quiet disappearance that made her look around and find no one waiting. Before we begin, please subscribe, and I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? She didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to leave the door cracked open in case her new adventure fell apart. I should have seen it coming. Hell, maybe I did see it coming and just chose to ignore the signs like some kind of emotional masochist. My name's Michael Harrow. I'm 38, and I work as a senior systems analyst for a private finance firm here in Denver. For the past 7 years, I'd been married to Camille, 36, part-time graphic designer, full-time yoga enthusiast who'd recently launched some lifestyle blog about finding your inner goddess or whatever. On paper, we looked good. Nice house in Highlands Ranch, 2 cars, a golden retriever named Max, weekend trips to Aspen. The American dream, right? Except dreams have a way of turning into sleepwalking, and I'd been unconscious for months. The past year had been different. Camille became distant, always on her phone, texting clients at 10 p.m., going to the gym, but never posting those sweaty selfies she used to love. Her location tags stopped matching her stories. She'd say she was at Core Power Yoga downtown, but her phone showed her somewhere in Rhino. When I'd ask about it, she'd get defensive. God, Mike, you're so paranoid. My GPS is glitchy. The intimacy dried up first, then the conversations, then even the fights. We became roommates, splitting utilities and pretending everything was fine. She started doing everything alone. Solo hikes up Mount Evans, girls' nights that lasted until 3 a.m., healing retreats in places like Santa Fe that she'd never mentioned wanting to visit before. When she came back from those trips, she seemed lighter, like she'd left part of herself somewhere else and was relieved about it. Last Thursday evening changed everything. I was washing dishes after dinner when Camille appeared beside me, drying her hands on a towel with this weird, practiced calm. Mike, can we sit down? I think we need to talk about moving forward. Separately, but kindly. The way she said kindly made my stomach drop. It sounded rehearsed, like she'd been practicing in front of the mirror. I followed her to the living room, and she sat across from me instead of beside me. That told me everything. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began, her voice gentle but firm. About us. About growth. About what we both need. She kept saying we, but every decision in this conversation had clearly been made without me. I think we need a friendly divorce. Something mutual. No hard feelings. Her face looked almost relieved, like she was finally sharing a secret she'd been dying to tell. I still care deeply about you, Mike. I want us to remain in each other's lives. You're too important to just lose completely. I sat there watching her perform this script, and something clicked. A woman doesn't plan an exit this smooth overnight. This had been in motion for months, maybe longer. I thought about that phone conversation I'd overheard 2 weeks ago, the one she'd quickly muted when I walked into the room. Instead of begging or asking why, I met her gaze and said flatly, "All right, let's do it." The smile faded from her face like I'd just called her bluff. She hadn't expected it to be that easy. "Maybe we should see a counselor first," she backpedaled. "Just one session for closure." "No need," I replied calmly. "Closure is you getting what you want. Let's keep it clean." She tried to reassert control, suggesting a separation trial or redefining our marriage, but I stuck to the facts. "You want a divorce, Camille. I'll start the paperwork tomorrow." She looked genuinely unnerved. "We don't have to rush this, Mike. Let's do it at a pace that feels right for both of us." "Your pace was 3 steps ahead of me," I said. "I'm just catching up." That night, after she went to bed, I started digging. Our shared iCloud backup showed deleted photo albums from 3 weeks prior, right around the time her behavior shifted. Her synced calendar had an entry from 2 months ago. Weekend in Santa Fe, Zen with R. There was no R she'd ever mentioned to me. I checked her Venmo history. Recurring payments to someone named Ryan K., tagged as meditation sessions, wellness coaching, retreat split. But she'd never mentioned a wellness coach named Ryan. My gut told me this wasn't about finding herself. It was about test driving someone else while keeping me as backup. Over the next few days, Camille became unusually sweet, making me coffee, asking about my work, offering to cook dinner. I recognized it as guilt management, not affection. She kept hinting that we could still grab brunch sometimes and maybe not tell everyone right away. I agreed on the surface while secretly opening a P.O. box and calling my old college buddy Caleb Murphy, who'd become a divorce attorney. The final piece fell into place when I walked past our home office and heard her whispering into her phone. "I told you, it's almost done." When she saw me, she laughed nervously. Just Sarah from yoga. Drama with her boyfriend. That night, she forgot to log out of her laptop. I found a draft email to Ryan Keller with the subject line, "It's happening," and a photo attachment of a lease application for a one-bedroom apartment across town. I'd been married to a stranger who'd been planning her escape route while I was still trying to fix what I thought was broken. The next morning at work, I got an email from Camille. "I want this to be peaceful, Mike. We're adults. But please don't do anything rash that ruins our friendship." Attached was a digital prenup template, with only her signature at the bottom. She thought she was letting me go slowly. I disappeared all at once. Her email with the prenup template was the last straw. While she was planning a peaceful transition that kept me emotionally accessible, I was planning a complete disappearance. Two could play the strategy game, and I'd learned from watching a master manipulator at work. I hired a moving service for the following Thursday, deliberately picking a day when Camille would be at another one of her yoga retreats. Funny how those retreats always seemed to coincide with weekends Ryan wasn't working. I took half the furniture, my clothes, my books, and left her a single note on the kitchen counter. "Didn't want to interrupt your peace. My lawyer will reach out." Then I vanished. I found a one-bedroom loft in Lodo, modern, clean, minimalist, everything our house wasn't. While she was probably expecting to come home to tears and begging, she came home to empty spaces and silence. I switched phone numbers and gave the new one only to Caleb. If she wanted to communicate, it would be through lawyers. The text started within hours of her return. "Saw a dog that reminded me of Max today. Thought of you when I passed that ramen place we used to go to." Each message more desperate than the last. I didn't respond to any of them. When texting failed, she moved to email. "We don't have to hate each other, Mike. We said we'd stay close." One message included an old photo from our Maui trip. Us laughing on the beach, her in that blue bikini, me with my arm around her waist. The caption read, "We were happy once, right?" I deleted it without responding. My new life started taking shape quickly. I joined a gym near the loft, started lifting again for the first time in years. Reconnected with old coworkers I'd lost touch with during the marriage. Even attended a tech startup conference solo, something Camille would have complained about as boring networking bullshit. People asked about her naturally. I kept it simple. Different paths. No drama, no details, no invitations for pity or gossip. That's when I ran into Autumn Reyes at a wine tasting event in Rhino. We'd known each other peripherally through mutual friends. She was a marketing manager, smart, composed, with this way of asking questions that made you want to give real answers. We'd had good conversations at parties while Camille was usually off charming other men. "How's your life?" she asked, and the way she said it wasn't pity. It was genuine interest. We talked for an hour. She didn't mention Camille once, didn't ask about the divorce, didn't treat me like a victim of circumstance. Just talked to me like I was a person worth knowing. Meanwhile, Camille's grip was loosening. Friends started telling me she was asking about me constantly. Is he seeing someone? Has he said anything about me? Why is he being so cold? The texts escalated. Are you seeing someone? Is this why you're shutting me out? Still, I didn't respond. Then came the character assassination. A mutual friend, Jordan, pulled me aside at a coffee shop and showed me screenshots. Camille had been telling people that I couldn't handle her growth and was emotionally unstable. She'd painted herself as the mature one trying to navigate a difficult situation with an unreasonable ex. The same friend admitted she'd also told several people I wasn't ready for real connection and that she'd ended things because I was holding her back. I laughed. Even in divorce, she was rewriting history to make herself the hero. Caleb was handling the legal chess match beautifully. When Camille tried to suggest we meet and split things ourselves without lawyers making it messy, he shut it down, set court dates, made asset demands. She tried to negotiate. She'd take less money if she could keep Max and the Camry. I agreed immediately, but only if she dropped her claim to our shared investment account, which was worth 3 times what the car was. She caved within 24 hours, probably thinking I was being sentimental about the dog. The panic really set in when she realized I wasn't coming back to the table. She sent a long email titled, "I miss your presence." The message rambled about how she didn't think it would be this hard, and felt like I'd shut her out completely, like she didn't even exist. She started calling from different numbers. I let them all go to voicemail. One message just said, I feel like you've disappeared. Like I don't matter at all anymore. She was right. She didn't. Camille began showing up at mutual events again, dinners, bar nights, always just by coincidence. People started noticing the shift. She looked anxious, always watching the door, always asking if anyone had heard from me. Autumn messaged me one evening. "Want to grab coffee again?" No agenda. We met the next day. The conversation flowed like water, easy, natural, no hidden meanings or emotional landmines. She joked, "We always had the best side conversations at those parties." I couldn't deny the connection. For the first time in months, I felt like myself around someone. That's when Camille's manipulation really backfired. She posted a vague Instagram story. Some people change fast, others were never real to begin with. The passive aggression was so obvious it was embarrassing. Autumn screenshotted it and sent it to me with a single word. Projection? Then came the bombshell. Autumn told me she'd heard from Ryan's ex-girlfriend that Camille had been flirting with him for nearly a year, during our marriage. The ex had been blindsided when Camille suddenly started showing up at Ryan's apartment like she belonged there. She overlapped, Autumn said simply. She was already gone before she told you she was leaving. Everything clicked into place. The distance, the phone calls, the mysterious trips. She hadn't fallen out of love with me. She'd fallen into something else while still wearing her wedding ring. At 11:42 p.m. that night, I got a text from an unknown number. "You think she was bad? You have no idea. She's done worse than you know." While she was fishing for my attention, someone else was already learning how to hold it. That cryptic text stayed with me for days, but I decided not to chase ghosts. I had something real developing with Autumn, and I wasn't about to let Camille's drama poison it. Coffee with Autumn became a weekly ritual. She was 34, polished without being pretentious, intelligent without needing to prove it. We'd had those meaningful side conversations at parties over the years, usually when Camille was busy working her charm on whatever guy had caught her attention that night. "I heard about the divorce," Autumn said during our third coffee date, "but I figured you'd come out stronger." There was something refreshing about her directness. No tiptoeing around the subject, no false sympathy, just honest observation. We talked easily about everything, work projects, favorite bands, restaurants we wanted to try. She never once asked about Camille, and that silence spoke volumes. Our conversations started stretching longer. Coffee became dinner. Dinners became long walks through Washington Park, then deep talks that lasted until midnight. It felt natural, unforced, like breathing after holding your breath for years. During one of those walks, Camille's behavior during our marriage came up organically. Autumn had noticed things I'd been too close to see clearly. "You used to just vanish into the background at parties," she observed. "Like you were there but not really there." She remembered Camille flirting with Ryan at a New Year's party 2 years ago, while I was literally across the room getting drinks. I actually confronted her about it once. She told me it was just harmless fun and that you were too clueless to notice. That hit like a punch to the gut. Not just the betrayal, but how deeply I'd been underestimated. How long had I been the fool in my own marriage? Meanwhile, Camille's attempts to reconnect were intensifying. The messages got longer, more nostalgic. Saw that movie we talked about seeing together. Made me think of you. Hope you're doing well. I know this is hard for both of us. She started leaving actual voicemails, her voice tearful and rehearsed. Posted cryptic Instagram stories, candles, journal quotes, selfies with captions like "growth isn't linear" and "some seasons require solitude." I maintained complete radio silence. Autumn didn't encourage or discourage it. She trusted me to handle my own boundaries. That trust felt revolutionary after years of being micromanaged. Then the rumors started. Jordan reached out to warn me that Camille had been telling people I was cheating with "that girl from the gym." The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. When I told Autumn, she just laughed. Classic deflection. If people think you're the bad guy, they stop questioning her timeline. But it got worse. Autumn revealed that Camille had privately told Ryan's ex-girlfriend that I was abusive. No one believed it, Autumn assured me, but she tried to plant that seed anyway. The full scope of the manipulation was staggering. Not just emotional betrayal, but systematic character assassination designed to make her look like the victim of a bad marriage instead of the architect of its destruction. As Autumn and I grew closer, I realized how fundamentally different this felt. She remembered small details from our conversations, surprised me with a bottle of Macallan 18 after I mentioned it was my favorite whiskey, brought dinner to my place after my longest work shifts without being asked. With Camille, I was auditioning, I told Autumn one night as we sat on my couch sharing takeout Chinese. Always performing, always trying to earn her attention. With you, I just show up. She smiled. That's because I actually want you here. We became intimate, but it wasn't rushed or desperate. There was patience, real connection. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be wanted for who I was instead of who someone needed me to be. Camille's infiltration attempts reached new lows. She showed up at our mutual friend Natalie's housewarming party, knowing I'd likely be there, hovered near my conversations, laughed too loudly, performed happiness like a one-woman show. When she saw me and Autumn together, really together, not just talking, her eyes flickered with something between surprise and rage. But she stayed quiet, watching from across the room. Later that night, she posted, "People pretending to be healed make the most noise." Autumn screenshotted it and sent it to me with a smirk emoji. No comment needed. The text from Camille continued, "So this is how it ends? You can't even talk to me like a friend anymore?" I broke my silence with one word: boundaries. Autumn and I decided to go public, or at least stop hiding. We attended a gallery opening in the Arts District together, an event known to attract our entire social circle. We arrived hand in hand, confident, composed. The reactions were mixed. Surprise from some, admiration from others, and obvious discomfort from Camille's remaining allies. Autumn handled it perfectly, introducing me to new people as her partner without apology or explanation. Someone pulled me aside later to mention that Camille had been telling people we were still in contact and working through things. She'd been manipulating the narrative while trying to keep me emotionally accessible, having her cake and eating it too. The facade was crumbling, and she knew it. Camille posted a long Instagram caption that night. "It's always the ones you fed who think they deserve your throne." Autumn forwarded it to me with a single line: "Queen energy or delusion." I was learning not to take the bait. Autumn had a simple philosophy: just keep showing up. That's the loudest revenge. But Camille's unraveling was just getting started. The anonymous DM that came the next day proved that. "Camille's going to try something at Natalie's birthday party next week. She's spiraling. Be ready." She wanted the divorce to keep me accessible. Instead, it made me invisible to her control. Natalie's 40th birthday party was going to be the event of the season. Rooftop venue overlooking downtown Denver. Everyone from our social circle expected to attend, including Camille. When Autumn suggested we skip it, I shook my head. No, I'm done hiding from her orbit. We planned our appearance carefully. No over-the-top theatrics, no dramatic entrances. Just presence, confidence. The kind of quiet power that speaks louder than any performance. The party was already in full swing when we arrived, hand in hand, effortlessly composed. The rooftop was packed with familiar faces, string lights twinkling against the Denver skyline, craft cocktails flowing freely. Camille was already there, holding court near the bar in a dress that screamed, "Look at me." The moment she spotted us, her practiced smile froze mid-conversation. I watched her eyes dart between Autumn and me, calculating, processing. People started noticing. Phones appeared, eyes darted. Whispered conversations began. Autumn kept her poise, greeting friends warmly, making small talk about work and weekend plans. I nodded to familiar faces, shook hands, acted like the composed man I'd become instead of the broken husband I used to be. Camille began her psychological warfare immediately. She wove through conversations, inserting herself into our proximity like a heat-seeking missile. Laughed too loudly at jokes that weren't funny, told dramatic stories about her healing journey and spiritual awakening. The passive-aggressive comments started flowing. "So many people rushing into relationships these days," she said loud enough for us to hear. "Must be really hard to be alone with yourself." Autumn didn't miss a beat. "Wouldn't know," she replied calmly. "I'm never alone by accident." I watched Camille's composure crack in real time. The confident mask slipping to reveal something desperate underneath. The confrontation was inevitable. Camille approached while Autumn and I were chatting with another couple about weekend hiking plans. She interrupted mid-sentence, addressing Autumn directly. "I see you're enjoying what I built," she said, her voice honey-sweet but venomous. Autumn stayed perfectly calm. "I didn't take anything. He left with nothing and built this himself." Camille turned to me, her eyes flashing. "I thought we agreed to remain friends, Mike. Remember what we talked about?" "Friends don't manipulate each other," I replied evenly. "You ended the marriage. I ended the friendship." Her tone started rising, drawing attention from nearby conversations. "You jumped into bed with my friend like we were nothing, like 7 years meant nothing to you." "You were already gone," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You just hadn't moved out yet." That's when I decided to lay it all out. Clearly. Publicly. Let the truth do the talking. You were in Santa Fe with Ryan before you even told me you wanted space. Booked hotels together while still sleeping in our bed. Made dinner plans with him while asking me what I wanted for breakfast. The murmur from the crowd grew louder. People were putting the timeline together, realizing who had actually betrayed whom. Camille's face went white. That's not true." "Emails," I continued calmly. "Receipts. Calendar entries. You don't even cover your tracks well, Camille." Autumn gently placed her hand on my arm. Not to hold me back, but to ground me. To remind me I didn't need to destroy her to rebuild myself. Camille looked around desperately, seeing the judgment in people's faces. "This isn't over, Mike." "It was over when you booked a hotel with him and came home to my face like nothing happened," I said. "It just took me a while to get the memo." The rooftop went dead quiet. People started looking away, suddenly fascinated by their drinks or their phones. The kind of silence that follows a truth too uncomfortable to ignore. Camille grabbed her purse and stormed out. No goodbyes, no graceful exit. Just pure, unfiltered defeat. Autumn and I stayed. We laughed with friends, ate good food, danced to the DJ's playlist. I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I'd destroyed her, but because I'd refused to stay invisible. I didn't plan revenge, I told Autumn later as we walked to our car. I just refused to disappear quietly. The next morning brought an unexpected text from an unknown number. It was Ryan Keller. "Just thought you should know, she's been telling people you and I were friends during your marriage. Trying to flip the whole story. I'm done with her too." Attached was a voicemail Camille had left him the night before. "If this doesn't work out with him, we could still maybe figure something out. I miss what we had. I forwarded the message to Autumn without comment. She replied immediately. She just keeps proving your point. But Camille wasn't finished. A notification popped up on my phone. She tagged me in a new Instagram story. The message read, "Some people are so desperate to win they forget who they used to be." Under it was a blurry photo of Autumn and me at the party, taken from across the room like some kind of surveillance shot. I screenshot it, then blocked her account. The last digital thread between us finally severed. "She's unraveling," Autumn observed when I showed her the post. "And she's doing it publicly." I realized then that Camille had built the perfect exit strategy. Except she'd never planned for me to actually leave her behind. She'd wanted the freedom to explore while keeping me as her safety net, her backup plan, her emotional insurance policy. Instead, I disappeared so completely that she couldn't even find the door she'd left cracked open. She'd built the perfect exit strategy, except she never planned for me to leave her behind so completely. The birthday party became a turning point. Within days, I could feel the shift in our social circle. People who'd been neutral started taking sides, and surprisingly, most of them landed on mine. The truth has a way of cutting through bullshit, and Camille's carefully constructed narrative was crumbling faster than she could rebuild it. Jordan texted me first. "Dude, I had no idea she was that calculated. Everyone's talking about it." Then Sarah from our old trivia team. She tried to get me to unfollow Autumn on Instagram, said you were manipulating the story. I told her to grow up. Even people I barely knew were reaching out. Apparently, Camille had been working overtime to control the narrative, asking mutual friends to block me and Autumn, to avoid feeding into Mike's victim complex. The desperation was showing, and it wasn't a good look. I made a decision that felt both necessary and final. I blocked Camille on every platform, phone, email, social media, everything. I instructed Caleb to handle any future correspondence through legal channels only. "She'll twist any crack you leave open," Autumn said when I told her. "You're cutting off her oxygen supply." That weekend, I cleaned out the last box of our shared history. Old photos, birthday cards, souvenirs from trips that now felt like someone else's memories. I dropped it all at Caleb's office with instructions to dispose of it legally. No dramatic burning ceremony, no angry destruction. Just quiet removal of dead weight. The spy network revelation came a few days later. Two people I'd considered friends, Mark and Lisa, had been secretly feeding Camille information about my life. Screenshots of my social media posts, updates about where I'd been seen, even photos of Autumn and me at a coffee shop. "Lisa sent her pictures?" Autumn asked, incredulous. "That's not friendship. That's surveillance." I unfriended them both immediately, set my profiles to private, drew clear boundaries with anyone who seemed to be playing both sides. Some people complained about being caught in the middle, but I wasn't interested in managing their discomfort anymore. "Let them be confused," Autumn said. "They don't need answers. They need distance." Meanwhile, Autumn got news that changed everything. Her company offered her a promotion to director of marketing, but it required relocating to Seattle. She brought it up cautiously over dinner, clearly not wanting to assume anything about our relationship. "It's a huge opportunity," she said, "but I wanted to talk to you before making any decisions." I surprised myself with how quickly I responded. "Let's go. Let's leave all of this behind." We started planning the move immediately, touring apartments via video calls, researching neighborhoods, discussing logistics. For the first time in years, I was making plans that excited me instead of just surviving day by day. Word of our potential move leaked somehow, and Camille's behavior escalated dramatically. People started telling me stories that painted a picture of complete dissent. She'd been drinking heavily at events, according to multiple sources, missed 2 major design deadlines, and got placed on probation by her freelance platform. Started dating random guys from dating apps who never stuck around past a few weeks. She brought some guy to karaoke night, Jordan told me, kept introducing him as her spiritual connection. He looked terrified and left after an hour. Even Ryan Keller was out of the picture. Rumor was he'd ghosted her completely after the birthday party incident. Turns out watching someone publicly implode isn't as attractive as whatever fantasy he'd been sold. 2 weeks before our planned move, I ran into Jordan at King Soopers. He looked uncomfortable, like he had news he didn't want to share. She's been asking everyone if you're really moving to Seattle, or if it's just a stunt to make her jealous, he said finally. And she wanted me to let her know if you ever seemed open to talking again. I thanked him for the heads up, but made my position crystal clear. That chapter is buried, Jordan, cremated and scattered. The move preparations continued. Autumn and I spent our last weekend in Denver having dinner with the friends who genuinely supported us, people who saw our relationship for what it was instead of what it threatened in Camille's narrative. That's when the final email arrived. Subject line: just one conversation. Mike, I know you probably won't read this, but I had to try. I've been thinking a lot about how fast you moved on, and I can't help but feel like there was overlap. How else could you have replaced me so quickly? I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry for that, but embarrassing me publicly wasn't fair either. We had 7 years together. That has to count for something. I still believe we could rebuild some kind of connection, even if it's different. I miss your laugh. I miss having someone who knew me that well. Please just consider talking to me once. Really talking. Not through lawyers or angry confrontations, but like the people we used to be before everything got so complicated. I read it twice, waiting for some emotional response. Anger, sadness, nostalgia, anything. Instead, I felt nothing but mild irritation at the continued manipulation. She was still rewriting history, still making herself the victim, still trying to crack open a door I'd permanently sealed. I forwarded it to Caleb with a note. No response necessary. The packing continued. I sold the last item we'd bought together, a custom-made mirror for our old bedroom, and used the money to surprise Autumn with a weekend getaway to Steamboat Springs before the move. As I deleted the final backup folder with Camille's name on it, I realized something profound. Closure wasn't something I'd gotten from her. It was something I'd given myself. We were loading the last boxes into the moving truck when my phone buzzed with a voicemail from an unknown number. I almost didn't listen to it, but curiosity won. It was Camille, sobbing, barely coherent. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I didn't think you'd really go. I deleted it without saving and put my phone on airplane mode for the drive to Seattle. She wanted me on standby while she explored. I built something better while she burned it all down. Seattle felt like stepping into a different version of my life, one where I got to write the script instead of just reading lines someone else had given me. Autumn and I found a 2-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city skyline like a postcard. Every morning, I'd wake up to that view and remember what possibility looked like. Autumn's new job started strong. She thrived in the environment, leading strategy meetings, building campaigns, working with people who valued her ideas. Watching her excel reminded me what it looked like when someone wasn't constantly being undermined or second-guessed. I transitioned into remote consulting, which gave me flexibility I'd never had before. No more commuting to an office where I felt invisible. No more pretending everything was fine when my personal life was falling apart. I set up a home office in our 2nd bedroom and actually enjoyed work for the first time in years. We decorated the apartment intentionally. Modern furniture, art we both loved, plants that actually stayed alive. No relics from my past, no compromise pieces that carried baggage. Everything represented our future, not my history. The weirdest part was how foreign stability felt. I'd been so conditioned to dysfunction that peace seemed suspicious at first. Autumn communicated clearly, supported my decisions without trying to control them, showed affection without keeping score. Simple conversations didn't turn into emotional minefields. Disagreements got resolved instead of weaponized. Peace felt foreign at first, I told her one evening as we cooked dinner together. Like a quiet room you're afraid to enter because you're waiting for someone to start yelling. That's trauma, she said simply. It takes time to believe good things can last. We adopted a rescue dog, Jasper, a husky lab mix with mismatched eyes who'd been returned to the shelter twice for being too energetic. He bonded with me immediately, like he recognized another refugee from chaos. Having something depend on me in a healthy way felt revolutionary after years of walking on eggshells. News from Denver became increasingly sparse. The mutual friends who mattered kept in touch, but they stopped mentioning Camille entirely. Jordan sent one update. She'd moved to a smaller apartment in Thornton, deleted her yoga blog, and started seeing a therapist. "Don't know if it's growth or damage control," he texted. "Either way, she's not bringing you up anymore." I realized I didn't care which it was. Her healing journey, real or performed, wasn't my responsibility anymore. Autumn's parents visited from Oregon in the spring. They loved me immediately, not because I was perfect, but because they could see how I treated their daughter. Her mom pulled me aside during their stay. "I've never seen her this happy," she said. "Whatever you two have, it's the real thing." We started making long-term plans, buying property, maybe starting a consulting business together, travel goals that stretched years into the future. I found myself enjoying simple pleasures again, weekend farmers markets, movie nights where we actually watched the movie, slow mornings drinking coffee in bed. The final test came 6 months after the move. I was checking LinkedIn when a notification popped up, a connection request from Camille. Her profile photo had changed, new job listed as freelance creative director, location updated to Boulder, Colorado. No message attached, just the request. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for some emotional response. Curiosity, anger, even mild interest. Instead, I felt nothing but mild annoyance at the interruption. I deleted the request without accepting or declining it, just removed it entirely. That was her last door, I told Autumn later, and I bricked it shut. A week later, Caleb forwarded a message that had been sent through the law office's contact form. "Please tell Michael I hope he's well. I'm sorry for everything that happened. I was lost and scared and handled everything badly. I know that now. I wish I could undo the pain I caused. I don't expect forgiveness or contact, but I wanted him to know I understand what I did was wrong." It sounded genuine, maybe even real, but it also wasn't my problem anymore. I didn't reply through Caleb, didn't acknowledge it at all. That night, I wrote in the journal I'd started keeping. Her guilt isn't my burden to carry anymore. Her growth isn't my project to manage. Her regret doesn't require my forgiveness to be valid. Autumn and I celebrated our 1-year anniversary quietly. Dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking Elliott Bay, wine that cost more than we'd normally spend, conversation that flowed like we'd known each other forever. I gave her a framed photo from our first week in Seattle, us holding Jasper on move-in day, exhausted but smiling, surrounded by boxes that represented new beginnings. She gave me a compass pendant. "So you never forget how far you've come," she said. That night, lying in bed with Jasper sprawled across our feet and Autumn reading beside me, I realized something profound. I wasn't the same person who'd sat in that Denver living room listening to a rehearsed breakup speech. That man had been performing survival. This man was actually living. The old Michael had been so focused on fixing what was broken that he'd never asked if it was worth fixing. The new Michael had learned the difference between holding on and holding up, and when to let go entirely. I thought about Camille sometimes, but not with anger or longing. More like remembering a fever dream, vivid and intense while it was happening, but ultimately just a symptom of something unhealthy that had run its course. She'd wanted to find herself. I'd done the same thing. The difference was, I'd found something worth keeping. 6 months later, Autumn and I were walking Jasper along the Seattle waterfront, hands linked, watching the sun set over Puget Sound. The city hummed around us. Fairy horns, street musicians, the chatter of couples and families enjoying the evening. I thought about that night in Denver when Camille had asked for a friendly divorce. How she'd expected me to remain accessible while she explored her options. How she'd tried to keep one foot in our marriage while the other was already running towards something else. She'd gambled that I'd wait around to see if her new adventure worked out, that I'd be there as backup, ready to take her back if she changed her mind. Instead, I'd disappeared so completely that when she finally looked back, there was nothing left to return to. "What are you thinking about?" Autumn asked, noticing my contemplative silence. I squeezed her hand and smiled. just appreciating where I am. For the first time in years, I wasn't wondering what if. I wasn't looking over my shoulder or waiting for the other shoe to drop. I knew exactly where I was and who was walking beside me. Jasper barked at a seagull, tugging on his leash toward the water. We laughed and followed him toward the pier, toward whatever came next, together.